The Iceworm boss fight in Armored Core 6 closes out Chapter 3, and it has some unusual mechanics that you'll need to wrap your head around if you want to breach its considerable defences and get on to what the rest of the game has to offer. Shockingly, the Iceworm is probably the largest boss in the game. It's easy for its size to put the Frighteners on you, and that alone can force you into making mistakes, but thankfully, you needn't fight it alone. The first step is not to be intimidated by it. You see, the Iceworm boss fight is a bit more of a gimmick than a challenge. A bit of a chimera of the Starscourge boss and Rykard fight in Elden Ring. You will have several AI companions in this fight with you, but they probably won't last the full fight, so you can't rely entirely on them. And ultimately, this boss battle is less about raw damage and more about hitting precise shots at the right time. Before the Iceworm fight, you'll complete a mission to acquire the VE60SNA stun needle launcher, which is helpfully designed for this very fight. You'll need this weapon to stun the Iceworm, which should be your primary objective whenever you get the opportunity. To stun the Iceworm, you simply need to hit the front of it, the face, if you like, where the 3 massive drills are. Do enough damage to stun it, and you'll eventually take down its primary shield. This is what you actually need the stun needle launcher for, but it's also a very powerful weapon, so we recommend using it anyway. It might be a gimmick, but it's got a hell of a kick. Once the primary shield is down, Rusty will fire a railgun to fully stun the Iceworm, and this is where you should focus all your damage on it, primarily on the same front part you've been hitting so far. You only get limited windows for dealing damage to the Iceworm, so you need to make them count. Otherwise, you will slowly be overwhelmed as your resources dwindle and your AI allies are picked off. After downing the Iceworm twice, it'll power up and become more aggressive. Things can get tricky here, but as always, keep moving, stay frosty to avoid its attacks from underground, and stay in the air to avoid its ground-based attacks, and you'll be fine. So that's your strategy. What about the build? These are the parts we used and would recommend if you're looking for the best mech for the Iceworm in Armored Core 6. For your right arm, you want the DFGA-08 Huben Gatling gun, and for your left arm, you want the same thing. For your right back, you want the stun needle launcher, and for your left back, same thing again. For your head, take the HD033M Veril. For your core, try out the DFBD-08 Tianqiang. For your arms, take the DF-AR-09 Tian Lao, and for your legs, the DF-LG-08 Tianqiang. And for your final few bits, for your booster, take the IACO1B Gills. For your FCS, take the FCS G2/PO5. For your generator, the VP20D, and for your expansion, take the terminal armor. It's almost always useful. As we said before, the stun needle launcher is basically a requirement for this mission, so you'll need to bring at least one. The thing is, as it's so powerful, we recommend bringing 2 if you can afford a second one. It is a very capable weapon, and it's a great addition to your mech for a lot of other powerful late game bosses like the Ibis, so if you can afford the punt on 2 of them, they're well worth it. We've also gone for a dual Gatling gun build. They're a great way to hose enemies with massive amounts of damage, and they go nicely with the burst damage of the needle launchers, but to carry all this, you're going to need a heavy build, hence the bulky additions to your frame. This works here especially because the Iceworm is huge. It isn't fast, so you don't actually need that much mobility to keep up with it or get out of its way. A tanky build like this is more than capable of staying ahead of the Iceworm's attacks, so take advantage of this tough mech with the big guns to absolutely destroy the Iceworm. And if you're ready to move on to the more difficult fights, check out our guides for the other bosses in Armored Core 6, or if you're new to this whole thing and just wanted to check out a later game boss, check out this video where we give you some tips on the best weapons and parts to get you started in Armored Core 6.